Now, we actually have something really cool here to show you guys, which is an infographic. I think this is the first time you guys are revealing some of these stats about Mass Effect 3 specifically. We're speaking about favorite characters and things like that. And you can actually look at this and see some, I think, somewhat surprising results here, especially things like genophage and characters and who survived. Any of you guys, Casey, Preston, anyone want to sort of talk about what you guys were surprised about when you pulled these stats?
I think I was actually really surprised by the swing from Paragon to Renegade. We'd always gotten a lot of press and talk about the Renegade actions in the game, but then we actually got the data back and we found out the majority of players were actually Paragon. That's what I play. So I think then we got follow-up questions from people say, well, if most people play Paragon, why do you do Renegade? And we'd always push back and say, it's actually important. You're more Paragon if you're actually given the opportunity to be a Renegade and turn it down. Mm-hmm. And so that's always been one of the important things, is that we want to put both those choices in there, even though more people may be choosing one or the other. So because it defines how you're playing the game. It's your character.
Some interesting stuff on there. I know genophage, Morden, and some of the percentages. I mean, did you talk about that? I mean, some people say like, oh, well, should it be 50-50, or I mean, like some one is, I think, was it 3% for one of them or something like that, or 8 maybe. Genophage. I mean, was that surprising to you guys, or?
I don't think so, because I think, like a lot of people, Rex is one of the star characters. Like, I've always loved Rex. He's my favorite character, and so if you carried Rex through the entire trilogy and got him to that moment, who's not going to cure the genophage, right? So I think there's some things, like the one I'm actually shocked by though is that more people saved the Geth than the Quarians. That one was actually very surprising.
Exactly.
Because that was actually one of the hardest conversations I had to have on the trilogy, was going into Patrick Weeks' office, who is the writer for Tali, and saying, if they chose the Geth, I think we have to kill Tali. And Patrick kind of looked at me, with sad eyes and said, but he knew I was right, but it took him a couple of days before he goes, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. It's the right decision to make. So, but that was a hard conversation, because I love Tali, and I think she's one of our foundation characters. But if you're going to make that hard choice and choose the Geth, there's going to be a cost to that. So, which is one of the parts of the trilogy I love. So.
Yeah, I remember we had the same equally difficult conversation with Patrick, where if you decide not to cure the genophage, you're going to have to shoot Morden, Patrick, who you created. So we're killing off all your babies here.
Yeah. And when you guys see stats like that, I mean, how does that inform? Does that inform sort of game design moving forward, or thinking about the franchise? I mean, what do you sort of take away from that besides like, oh, that's interesting?
Well, the percentages have changed a lot over time. Like, right. The percentage for Soldier actually used to be much higher. And it's dropped over time, because I think more people, they'll play one class and then they'll go in and try another class. So it's actually balanced out a lot more. But something like the Engineer, again, people ask, well, why do you do the Engineer if only 5% of the players play it? Well, it's again because we know there are players out there that love the Engineer. I love the Engineer.
Let's hear for the Engineer fans out there.
So, we've always tried to, even in the story, we make decisions which we know not a lot of people will see, but for me it's really important that we're still speaking for those people. The love interest from Mass Effect 1, if you didn't cheat on them in Mass Effect 2, you get that scene with the picture. Those are important moments for people that made decisions, and it's critical that we support that.
Yeah, I think the data actually also really helps us when we do see that not a lot of people are picking something. Ideally, we're making a pretty agonizing choice between different things, and part of that would suggest that there's kind of an even breakdown. It's definitely true that you want to make sure that you have the choice, so that even if a lot of people aren't taking it, then you're just that much more empowered. But when we look back at things like the classes, we can try and figure out, okay, why is it that people weren't picking certain classes? Talk to those fans, learn about that, and then we can kind of build those things back in so that we can make certain things work better, or even if it's something about how we do story and characters and stuff like that, building those things back in so that it's a tougher choice between those things, because people value them all and they think they're all really good.